Alex Del Carmen, criminologist, who I wanted to talk about with the events regarding the attempted assassination of Donald Trump over the weekend. Alex, thanks for coming on the show. You study these individuals. What prompts a 20-year-old to get a gun, climb a building, and try to kill a former president of the United States?
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Well, I tell you what, many of us are perplexed, right, about the fact that, first of all, that this person could get so close to the former president, and secondly, that in spite of all the efforts that are made by security experts, to be able to curtail that this person was able to, shoot at the former president, likely going to be the future president of the United States. And from my perspective, what I see here is a failure on behalf of law enforcement, but then at the same time, we really don't know what we don't know about this kid yet. I mean, he's one of those that are just, we have a lot of questions, right? But we don't have answers yet.
Yeah, but Alex, a lot of people are going to focus on the gun. A lot of people are going to focus on different issues. I don't think we focus on society enough because we are creating these monsters. The gun is the weapon of choice. But we've seen people get behind the wheel of a car and mow through crowds. We've seen people, the Boston Marathon bombers. How is our society today, in your opinion, creating monsters like this 20-year-old?
Yeah, I think social media has been a huge component, right? And part of it is because these kids are able to get online. Their parents don't even know what they're doing. They're talking to people from all over the world. They're having fantasies about what they want to do and who they want to hurt, based on video games. And so there's that virtual reality that just really convinces them that there's a very thin difference between reality and that virtual world in which they live. And then the isolation, right? So a lot of these kids are isolated. This guy was a loner. Apparently, he was one of those kids that was, didn't have many friends in school. At least that's how they describe him right now. So he does fit the profile of the individual that is self-radicalized and goes out there and does something illegal and quite frankly, criminal.
So basically we have somebody who feels marginalized, who feels invisible, and this is his way of being somebody in his twisted
Right,
mind.
and then that's right. And then on top of that, remember, too, that you've got the social media audience, right, which is, these kids don't need to have a camera in front of them from the local news channel talking about them. They now have the ability of being able to forecast and tell folks what they're going to do, what they've done, in a matter of seconds across the globe with the usage of a very cheap camera on their computer. And so by virtue of that, they have an ongoing, they're ongoingly on the stand, being able to portray their ideology and their belief before a captive audience 24/7. So if they want the attention, they have it.
Talking to criminologist Alex Del Carmen right now. Alex, as far as rhetoric, we're hearing both sides say we need to tone it down. I don't believe either side will for longer than 48 hours. We've seen this before. What do you think? Do you think that incident on Saturday involving former President Trump will make both sides settle down, or do you think it's going to be right back to where we were within 48 hours or longer?
Yeah, my experience, having been around this world for a while, is that civility in politics is short-lived. And I think, sadly, what's going to happen is they're going to be making a pause, almost like you would at a funeral, for a couple of days, and then they're going to start, throwing grenades and rocks at each other the way they have been. And as we get closer to the election, I think it's going to get worse. And so, I think it's a whole bunch of baloney. They talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. And the reality of it all is that we also need to be mature as a society and be able to be sophisticated enough that not to let the politicians and the ideologies govern our behavior to engage in criminal activity either.
Alex, I want to jump back with you for a second. So the marginalized, this 20-year-old who tried to take out Trump, he's not the only marginalized individual out there. How do we stop this or slow it down? I mean, you can almost guarantee if there's a mass shooting somewhere, it's a 21-year-old white dude. Like, what is going on here, and how do we put the brakes to it?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no predictor, right? Even if we get into the algorithms of social media, which some people have been talking about in terms of being able to develop the ability of, say, selecting certain words or just looking at certain individuals that do that. Part of the problem is there are thousands of kids that are introverts and thousands of really good kids that are in front of the internet, creating databases that are going to solve the next medical challenge of the 21st century. So we cannot chastise the million people that are going to be doing that versus that one isolated case where the individual gets there. So it's a pretty tough job for law enforcement to be able to identify these guys. And what worries me is that they come in from all sorts of backgrounds, middle class, upper middle class, well-educated parents that have been teaching them the right things, and they just simply go out there and do something that no one expected and no one saw coming.
Alex, appreciate your insight. Thanks so much for making some time for me today.
Thanks for having me.